What's going on, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous George and Goes return with one of our favorites, Jim Miller. Jim fucking Miller, who is coming off a big win over Damon Jackson. Jim, it's funny because you probably got all the retirement questions, yet you retired Damon Jackson.
Yeah. It seems like it's been a long going thing. Like all the questions about retirement, because I've been open about it, right? Like I was super close to retiring in 2016, so we're looking at like 8 years that I almost had my career ended and taken from me, and I kind of been able to hang around this long. So yeah, I get asked all the questions, and yeah, it's it's a tough thing when your opponent makes that decision right there, and then how do we deal with it? Because there's a lot of emotions.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that's one of those things. I hope that Damon was content with the decision, right? Like you go out there, you do it in front of everybody, and I don't want to do that and then kind of second guess myself. I want to know that all the juice is squeezed from this thing. So I'm gonna make sure that when I do it, I mean it.
Did you and Damon talk in the back at all? Because I know he laid down the gloves, and I heard the UFC offered him the opportunity to speak after Joe Rogan spoke with you, but he declined. I'm sure he's full of emotion, but did you have a word with him in the hotel or in the back or anything?
Unfortunately, no, I didn't get to bump into him. Like we get out of the fight, and nowadays, since COVID, what they just shuffle us through the media, and then you're in a car going back to the hotel. So he probably went to the medical tent. If he had any media, they'd have him do it, and then he's in his car, and I had a bunch of media. So they just kind of the job's not done, right? Like it used to be, like you'd fight, you'd get tickets, you'd go back into the venue, you'd get to watch the other fights, and then it was like the green room, you'd get to go hang out with the other fighters and watch the fights, when they still had the big press conferences. But yeah, nowadays it's like you're still on the clock after the fight's over, and you don't really kind of get that second to wind down until you're in a car going back to the hotel.
So there's no more that you guys are in two of those hospital beds with the curtain in between. The doctors check in, they bring you the check. You guys are shouting shit, or sometimes you take a pic. That's all done?
Well, I mean, if you go to the hospital, yeah, like
But not the hospital, in the back.
Yeah, no, in the back, you still have the two medical tents. But yeah, I mean, gone are the days of the checks too. Right now, it's direct deposit on Monday,
right?
So it's a lot nicer, right? You don't have to worry about it,
right?
But yeah, it's super quick. It's super like there's still moving parts, even after the fight's over. So you still have things you got to get done, and yeah, it's there's no like there's really not a that opportunity to just kind of like, oh, holy shit, like take it in for a second until you've already left the venue.
Did you want to go back in by any chance? It is UFC 309 at the Garden. If it were up to you, would you want to shower and then go in the green room, eat some pizza, mingle, and then maybe see Jones compete? I don't know, like.
Yeah, I mean, that was a card where I wouldn't have minded hanging around. There are definitely the times where it's like it's there's cool aspects to that process, right? And that was kind of introduced to us as fighters at the Apex shows, during the COVID shows. I remember the first fight I had in COVID. It was like they were bringing us in like 30 minutes ish before our fights, right? That was it. You were in a car, you were at the venue, you warmed up, you packed your bag, they took your bag, you hit like 2 interviews, you were back in the car after the fight was done. And it was literally like fastest thing. It's like, holy shit. Like my day is done. The sun's still out, like, and I'm going back to the hotel. And then we get cut loose, and then we can go, have a steak or something like that. There are cool aspects to that, but those big cards, man, like it's cool to be a part of it. It's cool to be, around all the fans. Obviously, like, it's a lot harder for them to bring us into the seats like they used to. But yeah, just to be around it, just to get to experience it, is neat. It's an awesome thing. And this sport was made to be done in front of the fans, and that's what kind of why I feel like I don't want to fight at the Apex anymore. I've got a handful of fights left. I want them all to be in front of big crowds.
Yeah. You had plenty of time to get to the hotel and watch the rest of the card, because it was 4 painful decisions after you. So thank you to you and John Jones for finishing at least towards some of the fights at the end there. And it's funny because your finishing rate kind of gets overlooked. You have a pretty good finishing rate.
Yeah.
A lot of people think you're kind of trudging along, and well, he's in his 40s. He did 100, 200, 300. Let's leave him alone. But no, you're going out there and you're finishing. You're kicking butt.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like, if I'm fighting, you flip a coin. I'm finishing my opponent. Like, so. That's just the way that it is. That's how I'm going out there to fight as hard as I can for as long as I can, and no decision win makes me happy. Like I've had a few in the UFC, right? Like I did a post a couple weeks ago, kind of pointing out that, like, I'm not even in the top 10 for decision wins in my weight class. And now granted, if you added, my catch weight fights that I've had, I'd be tied. I'd be tied on that list, at the bottom. But I go out and I fight to make myself happy, which is to go out and to win dominantly. And there's not a moment that you're going to find in the hours of octagon time that I have where I'm avoiding the fight. That's just who I am. And that's, if that changes, then I know that it's time. It's time to walk away from the sport. But I don't see it changing in the next couple of fights. So yeah, like I feel like the Jim Miller legacy is there, and it's a guy that's going to go out and fight as hard as he can and look for the finish with if there's a second left on the clock. So whether I'm winning or losing, so yeah, that's just who I am and what I do. And it's that mentality's cost me some fights. I probably could have won a few more if I fought a little more conservatively, but yeah, that's just it's just not what I'm looking to do.
Hey, Jim, so you're a very well-respected fighter in our industry. Do you remember the moment where maybe things changed in the sense of, normally the UFC gives you a call and says, look, this is what we would like you to do. These are your options. But I'm pretty sure a guy like you said, you don't want to fight in the Apex anymore. Do you remember a moment where that started to switch, where you could start saying things like that? This is what Jim Miller wants.
I still feel like I deal with a little bit of imposter syndrome, so like it's hard for me to even like say that stuff, and like my job is to fight, and that's what I do. I'm not a matchmaker. I'm not a promoter. I'm not any of that stuff. I'm a fighter. So, yeah, like that's what I focus my time on. And like during fight camp, my goal was to get as good as I can in the time that I have, and to be as ready as I can be for that fight. And on fight night, my goal was to fight as hard as I can fight, and to come away with a finish if I can. And it's still, yeah, it's hard to for me at least to make some of those calls, right? And you know, and I know that I am well respected, and I appreciate the hell out of that. You know, and some of the conversations that I have with you know, like guys like Sean Shelby or Rogan, I do feel that I've earned their respect, you know, and I notice how they talk to other fighters, and it's not like, you know, I'm not saying it's like demeaning in any way. It's just that like they talk to me a lot more in that peer realm. I feel like, at least maybe I'm kidding myself, you know, but it's yeah, I don't know when it started to happen, you know, but yeah, like I do notice the respect and the appreciation, and I do love it. You know, it's a huge driving force for me. But yeah, I still have difficulty, you know, making those making those call outs, right? Like saying, hey, you know, no more Apex cards for me. You know, Jim only wants the big cards, right? You know, like only numbered events at this point. You know, it's that's a tough one. It's a tough one for me.
Man, I hope you talk like that the rest of your career. Jim wants this now. Jim doesn't do that.
It goes.
Just in the third person. That's all I'm gonna do.
Yes, that would be incredible.
Let me jump in for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still work with a manager, or you do it yourself?
I do it myself. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, because couldn't your manager just be the bad guy and send him in there and say, "Hey, look, man, don't put me on an Apex. I want to fight on a number card, you know, and these are the guys. Here's my list of 5 or 3 that I want." Or I don't know. I mean, a head coach, couldn't someone go in there and do the dirty work?
Yes. Yeah. You know, I'm sure that if I, you know, was seeking out management or something like that, I'd be able to find it at this point. I just really don't really feel the need when it comes to the fighting. You know, like I'm not really in a place where there are a lot of negotiations, right? That's one of the issues that you know, we as fighters have. You know, like negotiating is not an easy thing to do with the UFC. And even management has a difficult time doing that. You have to be that certain fighter that has that ability to negotiate, right? Like to kind of make demands. And I don't know if I'm at that point, you know, like even where I am and what I've done. You know, it's like kind of like championship fighters, you know, champions, or like those, you know, the big pay-per-view draws, right? Those are the guys that have the ability to play those games. So you know, unless I was going someplace else, then yeah, I'd probably bring somebody in to help me make those decisions, you know, if I was going to another promotion or something like that, but I don't see that happening. So yeah, like fight wise, it's pretty easy for me to say like yes and no. You know, that date doesn't work, or it does work, or you know, you just tell me when and where, and I'll show up. It's essentially the way it usually is. So yeah, it's and one of the parts too, it's like, you know, I feel like anybody around you, anybody that you have part of the team, needs to be in it, right? They need to be there. And you know, I'm not gonna really have one of those managers that has a lot of contacts in the industry and has a lot of pull in the industry, that is going to be there with me a lot, you know. So they're not going to know the ins and outs of you know, my daily life, which I think they need to know. And I think that's one of the big things that has helped me, you know, with my team, with my coaching staff and my guys, is that everybody's on the same page. You know, so it's very easy to assess things and get things done and realize where I am, during fight camp, because they're all there, and the ones that aren't there, my nutritionist and my strength and conditioning coach, like well, I'm on the phone with them every day, so they probably know more than the guys that I'm in the gym with, a few days a week. So there's constant communication and because it's definitely difficult as a 41-year-old doing this, and like I said, everybody's got to be on the same page when it comes to training and what we're doing, and making sure that we're not getting me banged up and hurt.
When is the last time you had one of those conversations with the UFC, and are we close to hearing anything?
About what? Sorry.
About what does Jim Miller want?
Oh, I always get to talk a little bit to Sean, like at the fights, and I've been meaning to reach out to him in the last week or two and tell him what I feel like I'd like to be next, and it's never really opponents at this point, like there are a couple guys that I think would be a fun fight, that there might be some hype around it, but for me, it's like, when can I be, healed up, because training camps beat the shit out of me. It's always stupid things, right? And it's like I hurt myself doing things that are either unassociated with fighting or silly or sometimes I hurt myself and I don't even know how. And this last one, it's like I tore part of my hamstring, and I was like stiff for a little bit, and like I remember it stiffened up after sparring one day, and I was like, wow, like, let me go home, ice it, do some of the recovery stuff, and it was like a few days later, when I hit pads, and my Thai coach Amr is like, holy shit, he's like, the back of your leg is like black, and the whole back of my leg was just bruised, and like it was something I was able to get around, and obviously I was protecting it at that point and being smart, but like I don't know what the fuck I did. So so for me, it's like okay, well, I'm gonna need, after that one, there are a couple other things that I dealt with in camp, so it's like I need a couple weeks, feel good, and then it's like, all right, I'll throw my name in the hat when I'm ready, and so I feel like it's time for me to throw my name in the hat. I'd like to fight around Marchish, and I know the cards fill up super quick these days, so maybe I'm a little late, but I know there's a pay-per-view in Vegas around that time, right? So yeah, try to get on that and keep the ball rolling.
Do you want a veteran or a young guy?
I don't really I don't really try to like I try not to get hung up on it, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I can have preferences, right? I am a huge fan of Cub Swanson. I would love to fight that guy. I know he'd be coming up in weight class. I think it'd be a fight that would get some draw. He's super dangerous everywhere. He's if there's time on the clock, he's fighting hard. Like he's not giving up. Like I'm a huge fan of his. I would love that fight. I don't know what his schedule looks like. I don't know what his body's like. I don't, I don't like asking for people at certain times because I don't know what the fuck they're dealing with, or if they've got other fights and all that stuff. And the thing is, I've probably had more opponents drop out than anybody, in UFC history, so I think I'm at least at 10, maybe more than that, opponent changes. So like, I get ready for the night and I prepare myself, and I'm not super hung up on who is in front of me. And so for me to like focus on like a guy or two, I just feel like that's kind of silly on my part, because who the fuck knows what's going to happen. And, maybe they're going to get hurt. Maybe something else is going to happen, so, just tell me when and where, and I'll be there. And whoever you get to show up and stand across from me in the octagon, I'll fight. So whether it's a guy making his debut, like I've had a few of, or if it's a 30 plus fight UFC veteran, which I've had a few of, like, let's do it.
Yeah. At the press conference, I could have sworn when Dana White was asked about you, he said something along the lines of whatever Jim Miller wants. So I feel like you have leverage to call shots however you want. I'm not saying like F you money, talk like John Jones or nothing like that. I'm just saying like you've
It'd be
earned
nice.
it. Look, the reason Rogan and Buffer talk to you like that is because what you've done is pretty legendary, man. And then what you just said about Cub Swanson, you just probably made his 2024 when he hears this, because I'm sure he's a big fan of you. Who isn't at this point? But that's awesome that you said that, because you're both 41, I think, if I'm not mistaken. You both have been doing this for a long time. I know because we covered Swanson all the way when the WC was still around. In fact, we sponsored him when we were Tag Radio, not even MMA Junkie Radio. But yeah, I mean, as soon as he said that, I was like, wow, that sounds like the type of fight that would work. And I know he tried 135 once, and I could have sworn he said he would have tried 155 once as well. But yeah, like I say, by the way, when I meant the manager thing, I just meant like, hey, just phone, execute that assignment, and that's it. Now, it doesn't need to be a part of your life or take 10% of your pay or none. Just a quick call,
Yeah, no, there's benefits to it, and there's positives and there's negatives to it, right? So like,
I think your wife could probably do it. Honestly, I think a lot of guys put the wife in there.
Probably, she's a feisty one, so they might not like me for that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome stuff, man. All right, Goes. I think you got a final one.
Yeah, it's a silly one. You ready, Jim Miller?
Silly's my middle name.
Okay. At night, when you step outside of your house,
yep.
How often do you look up at the skies and go, "What the fuck is that? What is going on?" That's part one of the question. And part two, let's just say we're a UFO and it picked up Jim Miller.
Yeah.
There's an angry alien in front of you. Do you grapple or strike? What's your strategy?
All right. I live like as the crow flies, less than 5 miles from Pennsylvania. So people picture Jersey, right? And they see like Newark, Jersey City, Camden, Trenton, Atlantic City, right? They see all the dense areas. I look up all the freaking time because I can see so many fucking stars where I live. I must be just down in a little valley because where I used to be like 13 miles essentially dead east a few years ago, and like you would see the glow of New York City when you looked east at night, and now it's like, it's granted it's not like middle of nowhere British Columbia where like yeah it's completely ridiculous, but to be here and to be able to see the stars and all that stuff that I see, I look up all the time. See satellites, see shooting stars,
drones.
Yeah. Seeing some drones now lately too. I'm leaning more towards like Project Bluebeam, but that's just me. As opposed to the alien craft and all that stuff. But if I had to fight an alien, like if I don't watch a lot of like movies and TV. So we're going back to like X-Files stuff and like I see a lot of these the aliens. The one that I see in my mind is pretty lanky, right? It's got really really long appendages. I'm gonna have to close the distance. I'm gonna have to get on the inside, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna look to control the clinch as much as I can, just especially to get a feel of him, right? And if I gotta push away and create some distance because he's like trying to like, absorb me through phagocytosis or whatever, right? It's like pulling one of those things. Like I'm gonna get away, obviously, because I don't want to get absorbed into this alien creature. But yeah, I'm gonna feel him out. I don't think that an alien's gonna be expecting a lot of elbows, right? Like I just when I think of aliens and what their game plan's gonna be, I think they're more of like a slap boxer. So we're gonna try to slice them up with some elbows, moving in and out of there, getting inside those long rangy arms of theirs, and knock them off balance, throwing some foot sweeps.
Yes, go for the calf kick.
Yeah, and then try to push them into their probing machine, and then get the fuck out of there.
I like it. As terrifying as that situation could be, how funny would it be if you threw a calf kick and just kind of went, "Oh fuck"?
Yeah, right.
Kind of like relieve everything. What the fuck was that?
They're long and lanky.
Or it's like they're just not made to take it, and it's just like you just kick their leg right off, and like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I pictured the same skinny guy as well, and I had a little scrawny neck.
Yeah,
so I think at some point you got to attack the neck, but before you do that, I would throw one calf kick just to test the water and see where am I. You might kick a steel beam, and now okay, well, I better not get kicked by him, and so I better go for the takedown. And I mean, I think you'll get a lot of information just from that.
Yeah.
Man, where do you live in New Jersey? Where Chris and Paulie left Valerie the Russian in The Sopranos, or I think that's called Pinewood, right?
North of that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, the Pine Barrens. The Pine Barrens are like
Pine Barrens.
Yeah. So I'm up where the Appalachian Trail kind of cuts the edge of New Jersey. So technically, this part of Sussex County is still Appalachia. So
you couldn't see the drones, the stuff that went down last week, or could you from your?
No, they're up this way too. They're up this way. Yeah. It's weird. It's definitely weird.
Oh, you gave a hard out at 50 wins. Sorry, 50 fights.
Yes.
You're also getting close to 30 wins.
Yep.
UFC 400, you'd be, I think, about 48. Although Dan Henderson and Randy Couture did it, something like that.
I
think we ruled that one out, right?
Yeah. Not at lightweight, right? Not at lightweight. There's a big fucking difference. Huge difference.
All right. Well, listen, man, always a pleasure to chop it up with you, and congrats on this win at UFC 309. Amazing stuff you've done. We talked to a lot of people, man, and so many people agree with me that you belong in the Hall of Fame one day. I really hope you attain that, because the things you've done in this sport are very legendary, and you're at the top of so many important records in the record book. So that's awesome, and it's great to cover your career.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for having me on.
All right, we'll talk to you soon, Jim.
All right, have a good one.